Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. The Wolves clinging to the 1 seed in the West. It was a strange week for Minnesota. We'll get into all of it on today's Minnesota basketball party.
This is Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Timberwolves talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota basketball party on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody. It's Wolves Talk every Wednesday on Locked On Sports Minnesota and the Minnesota Basketball Party. We appreciate you watching us on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Help us get to 7,000 subscribers on the channel and hear us on the Locked On Wolves podcast feed, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts. That includes the Sirius XM app, and we are also streaming on the Amazon Fire and Roku devices. You can also catch us on the 24/7 YouTube live stream here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Plenty of ways to watch and listen as we talk Wolves, who still are the number one team in the West, and they are clinging by the skin of their teeth. Is that what they call it? The Wolves are still up by a meager margin on the Nuggets and the Thunder. And today we get into the Wolves 4-3 homestand, which probably wasn't as good as people wanted it to be. A very bizarre week for their star player, Ant Edwards, with just some unique things happening with him. And we'll talk about the Wolves' potential first-round matchup, whether they're a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. There are probably some teams that the Wolves would like to avoid in the first round. And as the Wolves go on the road, we will predict their week as they take on some pretty formidable foes coming up in the next 7 days. But let's meet our panel today with our opening tip.
I'm Jack Borman, editor-in-chief of Canis Hoopus and co-host of the Locked On Wolves postcast with my man Luke Inman. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think that this upcoming road trip will tell us more about the Timberwolves than this past homestand.
Reggie Wilson, KARE11 sports director. And, you know, the top of the West is like that emoji. It's this close. But if the Wolves can't figure that offense out, it's going to be a problem for them.
And I'm Ron Johnson, former Gophers and NFL wide receiver, but also avid basketball fan and everyday basketball player. But I'm going to let you guys know why. Why? Daddy strength? Daddy strength is a little bit different than guys without kids. We'll talk about that much more.
Might be getting into a little Anthony Edwards talk there. The official margin for the Wolves atop the West is a half a game over the Thunder. Thunder have a game in hand, and 1 game over the Nuggets, who lost in overtime last night to the Suns late, if you stayed up to watch it on a Tuesday night after they came back from 22 down. So the Wolves remain atop the West. But their homestand is done, and I think we were all hoping for a little more from the Wolves in this 7-game homestand out of the break. They beat all the teams they should, and they lost to all the good teams. They lost to the Bucks. They lost to the Kings in overtime. They lost to the Clippers. Combined margin of defeat, 10 points. 1 point against the Clippers on Sunday in kind of a controversial final minute there. But Jack, let's start with you, and let's look at this homestand in totality. How would you describe it for the Wolves?
Yeah, the one word that I had was tired, right? The Timberwolves had 3 back-to-back sets in the 7 home games. Rudy Gobert has played in this league for 7, 8, 9 years now. He said he's never seen that before, having 3 back-to-back sets within 7 games. But the Wolves did go 3-0 in the second legs of those games. And again, the last 5 games of those came in a span of 7 days. You had Karl-Anthony Towns travel back out to New Jersey for the funeral of a close friend of his with his father. Anthony Edwards' girlfriend, of course, delivered their baby. So it's just kind of an odd combination of a lot of different things that are not normal things that happen in the NBA. And I think sometimes when you're looking for a further explanation of, well, why did the Timberwolves, not go 6-1, right? Why, how could they not beat the Kings without De'Aaron Fox? How could they not get it done at the end against the Clippers? I think there were just a lot of things going on for this team that were kind of extenuating circumstances that just made the basketball a little bit tougher. And I think the hope is that they can rebound a little bit by going out on the road, spending a little bit more time with one another, kind of get the vibe, good vibe going again, get some more film and practice time in than what they normally would get here in Minneapolis. And I think too that, it was disappointing considering that they had an opportunity to build themselves a little bit of separation from Oklahoma City and Denver. They could be 1.5 games up on Oklahoma City and 2 games up on Denver right now, considering that Oklahoma City has lost to San Antonio and they lost to Los Angeles. That fourth quarter from Victor Wembanyama in that OKC San Antonio game was incredible. Go watch the highlights if you haven't already. And then
Killed my parlay.
And then Denver losing to Phoenix last night, right? So it's a little bit of shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I think that honestly, in the long run, I think losing 1 or 2 of those home games could honestly be a good thing. It just kind of forces this team to lock in a little bit more. And the good news is that I think all these teams that they're going to be playing on the road trip are good enough and are going to command enough attention from the Timberwolves that I think they've got a really good opportunity to go 5-1 on this road trip and continue to hopefully be able to build a little bit of separation, even if it's a game and a half or 2 games from the teams right behind them. Because if you go look at Oklahoma City's schedule and Denver's schedule, there's just not a lot of losses there.
Seems like some people are kind of bailing off the Wolves bandwagon after this homestand too. Nationally speaking, the line down from 58.5 wins projected to 55.5 wins for the Wolves now that they're going on the road next. Reggie Wilson, what do you got?
Yeah, I think the word I thought of about the homestand was just kind of like meh, like it was just meh. Like you said, they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat. Give them credit for that because in years past they've struggled to do those things. But I think you would have liked at least like one of those wins come with like one of the Bucks, the Clippers, I think you wanted to see one of those. They come out with the win, and I think they should have with a couple of those with the Kings and the Clippers, but just some inexplicable play in a couple of those, and they get what they get. But it's interesting now because it seems like the Wolves were just kind of walking through the West for a good part of this season, and now things are just kind of like heating up towards the end, and it's just going to show a lot of what they're made of. I think the issue too is just like I tweeted after that win against the Blazers, like, yeah, they won, but like, how good do you feel about that win? Like, I know winning, it's fine. You don't care how you win as long as you win. I get that, but like 13 points from Ant, like 14 from Cat. It wasn't the type of offensive output that you expect from a team that you are looking to challenge for supremacy in the West. And I guess if you look at it from the other side, you're like, okay, Mike Conley had a good game from a scoring standpoint. Rudy Gobert had a strong game, from a scoring, 9 for 10 from the field and boards, getting 16 of them. And so you're like, okay, like even when guys are, the starters are not doing what you expect them to do, the guys that are kind of like the help and the guys coming off the bench are still delivering like they're supposed to. And that's a mark of a good team, you say yes. But I think they still have some things to figure out on the offensive end, and I just don't understand why it continues to be so clunky. And that kind of gives you a little concern as you think of them as a team that could possibly try to make a run in the postseason.
Ron.
Yeah, so for me, when I look at the next 20 games, I'm going to start there first. I agree with Jack on these back-to-backs, though, but I will say the 12th, the 13th, they won. And then the 15th, they won. So when you think about the ability to do it, it's always the team, too. They played the Trailblazers, who were terrible. You go look at the 23rd, 24th, win-loss split, but then 27, 28, they won back-to-back. They lost not back-to-back, but first and third, they lost, and then on the fourth, they won. Also on that back-to-back, third and fourth, they split it again. So if you kind of do that math of, like, rest, who's ready to play, all this other stuff. But I kind of joked about daddy strength. And for guys that have kids, your mindset changes once you have kids. Like your body physically changes, but your mindset changes. Like that's why you see grown men in gyms just absolutely abuse these young 20-somethings. I'm one of them. Like, I go to the gym yesterday. Guy tried to bully me and push me around. I had to show him, like, man, I got dad strength, man. Like, Like I don't lift weights anymore, but I got dad strength. And Anthony Edwards down the stretch, I think is going to start to show his daddy strength because now he's playing for something different. We're going to get a different Ant down the stretch of a guy that's like, I mean, think about when Michael Jordan had kids. Like he became great. So I think this is where Anthony Edwards is going to go. Is this going to be a different thing? But looking at the teams, I'm kind of at the 56 win mark now because the wins of the next 20 that I see them having, or let's just go with the losses. I can see them losing to the Pacers, Cavs, Nuggets, Suns, Nuggets, Suns. Other than that, I think the Cavs, that's a weird one. They could beat them twice. The Clippers, they play them in there. They could beat them. Again, I think they're going to beat them. If you think about how that game ended, some weird plays, the traveling by James Harden that wasn't called. I did see I talked to a lawyer yesterday, and he said the NBA sent out a letter, I guess, they were telling refs, hey, you guys are blowing the whistle too much. So last week was like the least amount of calls, or like it was down a ridiculous amount of percent or some of calls. And so they're swallowing their whistle because they were told to. And so we think about some of those calls that aren't being called, simple travels that they think, that doesn't really affect the game. He took 4 steps, but nobody's guarding him. Still a travel. And so I think they're trying to swallow their whistle a little bit on some of that stuff to keep the game going. And I think that's going to change too, because coaches are going to start to see those letters. The referees now have called out the NBA and telling people it's not us, it's the NBA asking us not to blow the whistle on some of this stuff. Some of the hard fouls that normally or not hard fouls, but fouls that would get called aren't getting called. Whether they're trying to get a bully ball type of NBA back or what, because we saw Gilbert Arenas talk about that with the internationals. But at the end of the day, I see them winning 13 games down the stretch. And so that does put them at 56. I don't say people lost faith in them. I just say they lost some games they should have won. And so I think that's what changes the record. But still to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to go 13-7, that still I think is good enough. But I don't know if that's good enough to be first, because that's what's going to see what Shea Gilgeous-Alexander wants to do. If it's going to be his like not wanting to be number 2 anymore. And so if they keep playing strong and they end up at the 1, I mean, we'll talk about this in the last segment. I don't think 2 is a bad spot to be in either, because you're still going to have to deal with the 7, 8, 9, or 10. So either way, you're going to have that team. The one difference is you get to avoid possibly the Nuggets if you have the first seed until the finals. So that's kind of where I go with it.
Yeah. It's not the East where 1 versus 8 like is just a giant discrepancy, or even 2 versus 7. I mean, you're going to play a good team no matter what in that first round, and you're going to be at home. I mean, that's almost locked up at this point. And a good nugget from Jack Borman, who dropped it in the chat. Wolves 7-2 in the second half of back-to-backs this season. That's a pretty good number. I mean, there were a couple alarming trends in that homestand too. Like the Wolves were out fast breaked 38-0 in the Kings-Clippers games. And I was under the impression that they were going to run more. They were going to get the ball up the floor out of the All-Star break because they have the fewest shots per game in the NBA. Thought that pace would help them get up more shots, and that doesn't seem to have happened. But the other alarming trend, just weird things happening with Anthony Edwards. Lack of focus, some strange decision-making, missing the start of a game. We're going to talk about where Ant is at after a word here on the Minnesota Basketball Party. We're brought to you today by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophies. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP. Bring home that win. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Minnesota Basketball Party rolls on. We also have the Minnesota Football Party here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Hear that on Mondays and Thursdays. Ron Johnson joins the show tomorrow to weigh in on the latest Kirk Cousins steam. But let's talk about star player Anthony Edwards. This is his week, and I'm not judging necessarily any of these events individually. Just a bizarre week. He leaves a game at halftime to be there for the birth of his child. Respectable. Shows up late to another game, misses the opening tip. He dunks with 3 seconds left, down 3 at the end of the Clippers game. Strange decision. There was a viral clip of him kind of lollygagging back on defense. I think it was that same Clippers game, and basically allowed a transition 3. And then this is all on the heels of that kind of mysterious injury that he suffered, and then he came back and he was fine. So just like a lot of little strange events happening with Anthony Edwards. Chris Finch earlier in the season summed it up well. I think this was about December. He said, the maturity of Anthony Edwards is still a work in progress. Feels like that's kind of what we're seeing right now, Reggie Wilson, with all these kind of odd things happening with him.
Yeah. By the way, did we know that Anthony Edwards had a baby by a woman who had her first child with Chief Keef? Chief Keef. That was a development that I didn't know.
That's
I
a
didn't
plot
know.
twist. That's a plot twist.
Yeah, imagine
Yep.
having a baby by Chief Keef and Anthony Edwards, two of the more eclectic guys. One from Chicago, one from Atlanta. That's something. That's something.
That's good research on Reggie Wilson's part too. That's good.
Hey, look, man, journalism,
preparation.
Exactly. But yeah, that's interesting. One's a rapper and one's a ball player. So yeah, I just think it's just like what Finchy said. Like, I just think that, Ant's still so young, man. And he has these lapses that you're just like, he's still young. It's like you want him to be like this, like mature play. Everybody's trying to, anoint him as like the next Michael Jordan and all that stuff. Man, he still just got some work to do. He's got some reps to get in life. I think, as Ron said, him becoming a father will probably mature him a little bit. It'll probably change him a little bit, just because, when you have a child and someone else that is depending on you, and fatherhood just gives you a different perspective. So I've heard. I'm not there yet, but I just think that that's something that we'll continue to see him kind of work through. And it's just so interesting because I was listening to the soundbite from Mike Conley yesterday, and you can hear Ant in the background, just like I just lost track of time. And everything to Ant, like, I don't think I've ever seen Anthony Edwards be serious about anything. Like, everything comes with like a little smirk or a little, like, it just seems like he's so playful about everything. It's just hard to like get a gauge on what he's like actually serious about, like what actually means much to him to make him like really fired up about something. I just don't know if that's where he is in life right now, because he's got no worries. He's out there playing basketball for a living and doing this thing. And so I know a lot of people kind of put the knock on him, like, well, does he care about the game of basketball enough to be an elite player? And I think we've found out that, yes, he does. He does care about the game enough. He wants to be great. And so that pushes him to do that, to put the work in. And so I just think it's just the growing pains of a young star in the league, just continuing to come of age and mature. And I think, hopefully he'll lock in down the stretch and really help this Wolves team get to where they want to go.
Yeah. Ron, what do you have on this?
So, I mean, honestly, the week, I'll give it to the baby. Like, there's a lot going on when you're about to have a kid. I couldn't imagine. I know Brian Billick, our head coach, used to always joke about that with guys. He would say, never plan a wedding during the season and never have a baby during the season. He was always telling guys, like, I mean, it was a joke, but he was like, look, we're men. We know when babies, how long it takes to make a baby. And he was literally telling guys to plan to, like, I mean, we know what we got to do to have a baby. So he was telling guys that, like, hey, you might want to plan it so this baby comes in May, June, July, August even, and then vice versa. Maybe it'll come in February, March, April. And so when you think about that, I failed. I had one in April. I did right, but then the other one came in October, so I couldn't do nothing about that. I failed, but I wasn't a player anymore either. But when you think about that, of like trying not to have a baby during the season, Brian Billick said it, because I remember Anthony Forgot his last name, but Anthony Wright. He was our quarterback for the Ravens, and his wife was pregnant. I think we were playing like the Seahawks on like Sunday Night Football. His wife goes into labor. They tell him, she leaves the stadium. He stays, wins the game, and then gets like police escorted out of the stadium. And they make an announcement to tell the fans, if you don't mind, can you all, because it went down to like the last play of the game. If you don't mind, can you guys stay so Anthony Wright can get out the stadium and get to his baby? So like telling cars not to get in their parking lot so that the cops can get him out there quick. And literally he went straight from the field, ran through, and then the cops took him off the field into a car. And so, but Billick was just saying like, man, that's a lot of things to worry about in the game. And can you block it out? So for Anthony Edwards, for his first kid, this is a lot. And so I'm going to do to that. Now, as far as the maturity thing, he's young. He's going to make mistakes. When you give a young 18, 19, 20-year-old kid millions of dollars, you're not asking them to mature right away. You don't have to. Why? I'm a millionaire. I can do what I want to do. And that's why like so many guys like Shaq, Charles Barkley, and so on and so forth. Now, Kenny Smith, they try to like talk about, I wish I could tell these young kids not to do what I did, or I wish I could tell these guys to do. Like Shaq's always about that. Like, I wish I can teach them what I messed up on, or what I wish I had learned. I was immature. I did this with my wife, blah, blah. And so that's why the older guys try to do that. So for Anthony Edwards to mature, honestly, like, I don't know if this kid's going to help, but I think it's definitely going to create a new structure of timing and life for him. So maybe that will push him into a different mindset as well. But again, he's young. He's young and he gave millions of dollars. So I mean, it is what it is. Now, some of the in-game stuff, Sam, the one you brought up, the dunk and then some of that's just being unaware. And we know that happens to athletes all the time. Remember J.R. Smith, Lakers game, Warriors game. He should have just laid it up. He runs back past LeBron because he thought they were, I don't even know what he thought. He thought they were up by one maybe or something. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it happens to the best of them. He might have been high when it happened, but whatever. But it happens to the best of them. I think for Anthony Edwards, as he grows in this leader role, because now everybody's talking about he's the man, he's a leader, maybe that will change him as well. Because before it was kind of Cat's team, and now everybody's kind of saying, look, this is Anthony's team. Let's go do it.
Yeah, I will call out some of the criticism. People saying that Anthony Edwards, is this and that on social media because he cost you your bet because he left to go to the birth of his child. Get a life. Get a life. That's not what you should be worried about. The other stuff might have some more valid criticism to it. Jack, what do you have?
Yeah, my biggest note in all this is I think anybody that is criticizing Anthony Edwards for being present for the birth of his first child is crazy, and should really think twice about what they're saying. And it's I think it should be celebrated that Anthony Edwards is wanting to be there for his kid. But starting with the dunk down three, I actually had zero problem with this. If you watch that possession was going absolutely nowhere. And 3 seconds in the NBA is more than enough time to foul an inbounder, have a second run off the clock. You still have 2 seconds, which is more than enough time to inbound the ball, take 2 dribbles, and get a shot off. And I'd honestly shift more of the onus onto Chris Finch there. Chris Finch watched that whole play unfold. Karl-Anthony Towns looked like he couldn't do anything. Ant looked like he couldn't do anything for the 3 seconds that he held the ball. And Chris Finch could have called a timeout to run another play and get a better shot. And he didn't do that. And he, big on trusting his guys. I think that's respectable and commendable, but he also could have called a timeout there, and he chose not to. And again, you have to credit the Clippers for making a smart play, right? I think it was Amir Coffey who caught the ball, or it was Kawhi. I don't remember who caught the ball and then got it right back to the inbounder. I thought that was a great play to kill time. And, you got to credit the Clippers for that. But again, I think it was more a problem of whatever they drew up on that play to try to tie the game didn't work. And then with showing up late, I just think you have to be better there, right? I think it sets a bad tone for the game, sends a message to your teammates that you are not ready to go. And Ant played awful the whole game. He looked like he didn't want to be there. And it's a shining example of just how Anthony Edwards needs to be more consistent if he wants to be the guy. You cannot say that this is Anthony Edwards' team and then hide behind the fact that he's 22 when he does immature things that sets a bad tone and is objectively bad leadership. You can't have it both ways. It's got to be all in. He's the leader. He's the guy, and he has to take the blame for all this stuff. Or it has to be he's too immature and he's not ready to be the leader, and it's Karl-Anthony Towns' team, and you blame Karl for everything. Like it just cannot be both ways for those people. And I love that Anthony Edwards wants to play every game. It's my favorite thing about Ant. but sometimes him playing does a disservice to his teammates. If he's going to be super passive and not impact the game, that he needs to impact the game. And I think Chris Finch probably would have had zero problem with Anthony Edwards coming to him and saying, "Hey coach, I just need a day. My head's spinning. I don't feel like I can be the best version of myself right now. I just need a day. I'll be ready to go on Thursday when we play Indianapolis." I'm sure Chris Finch would have had zero problem with that. And then the Timberwolves probably would have come out and played better, knowing that they wouldn't have had Ant, rather than seeing Ant there physically, but not being there mentally and emotionally. So I think those are just a few things to keep in mind when it comes to Ant. When you start thinking about, oh, well, where does Ant compare to Devin Booker? Or, oh, where does Ant compare to, insert player you want to compare him to that's, above him on the kind of the NBA pyramid is the consistency, right? I think Anthony Edwards, when you look at his statistics for a month or for the season, are great, and they obviously show a level of consistency in the long run, I guess. But the biggest thing is there's so much inconsistency within a game or within a 3-game set or a 5-game set that you just generally don't see from a lot of the NBA's top flight, truly elite all NBA caliber players. And I think every player probably has a stretch or two of the season where they're not playing their best, but I just think the Timberwolves need Anthony Edwards to be a lot more consistent on both ends of the floor, especially these last 20 games, if they want to not only be the 1 seed, but win a first-round playoff series, which I think it's kind of like the Twins, where we all just wanted the Twins to win 1 game, and anything after that was just kind of icing on the cake. I feel like for the Timberwolves, it's just win a first-round playoff series, show us that you can do it, and it's going to have to be a lot better if the Timberwolves are going to do that.
That's a good segue into our next segment, because I want to talk about first-round playoff matchups. And on Ant, I just think that his best quality, which is sort of that disarming personality that is so good for, or most of the time, good for locker room culture. It lets him kind of be himself, and that's all very good. But also, I think it brings into question, like, is he able to flip the switch off of that and engage when he needs to engage? So it's you get the good, you get the bad with that personality trait that he possesses. Let's get into first round playoff matchups to avoid, and then maybe who would you want to play in the first round if you're the Wolves. That's coming up on the Minnesota Basketball Party. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can start to get to you, and it's important to talk about it. We like to rant about sports on this show. We talk about Anthony Edwards and his issues on the court. We get worked up about 55.5 wins, Wolves projection. Why can't you win the close games at home anymore? We care a lot about this stuff, but sometimes life is more important than ranting about your favorite sports teams, and that's where therapy can come into play. Getting these important things off your chest can really help you process and help clear your mind and help open up room for the things you really prioritize. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. BetterHelp. Western Conference is a logjam, gentlemen. The top 3 teams are separated by 1 game, and then the play-in group. Let's get the latest up-to-date numbers on the play-in. So 7 through 10 in the West, separated by 2 games. The Suns are 1 clear of them. But Sacramento, Dallas, Lakers, Golden State, and then you've got the Pelicans and Suns just inside of the 7 line. So if we're looking at first-round matchups for the Wolves, is there a team that you are Xing out, that you are absolutely wanting to avoid? Ron Johnson, we'll start with you. First round matchups.
Yeah, so Sam and I, we kind of talked about this on the Ron Johnson show, and we actually just been chatting about this a lot. I think we should talk about this Friday as well on the roundtable. I think this is a good topic. I personally, and I know Reggie doesn't want to hear this, I want the Lakers in the playoffs. I want to play the Lakers. I hate to say it, Reggie. I'm sorry. If I'm picking out of those 4, Kings, Mavs, Warriors, Lakers, give me the Lakers. I want the Lakers as the 8th seed. I want them to knock off the Warriors for the play-in. I forgot even how the play-in goes. How does it even go anymore? Is it 9 plays 10 and then 7 plays 8? And then the losers of 7 and 8 play the winners of 9 and 10?
Correct.
Yeah. So yeah, let's let the let me see. I want the Kings to stay at 7. And then let's get the Mavs at 7. And then let's get the Kings out of there. Let's get the Lakers at 8. That's what I'd rather. I don't want the Warriors because Steph Curry at any moment can just get hot and go nuts. The Mavs have those 2 scorers in Luka and Kyrie, where Kendrick Perkins pointed out, and I was trying to like debunk him, but I kind of get what he's saying. He's saying their second option with the Mavs has the same scoring line numbers as our first option, which is Anthony Edwards. So that was an interesting one he brought up on there, that their second option scores the same as our first option. So I was like, that's a good point. He makes a good point there. So I don't want the Mavs either. Give me the Lakers. We know Anthony Davis at any moment is going to fall and hurt his toe and be out for the rest of the game and be dressed in street clothes. We know that LeBron, all you got to do is touch that hair and he's out. Like, he is not coming back in the game if his hair's out of place. And then we know D'Angelo Russell is bound to do something stupid versus the Timberwolves because he just wants to show everybody that he went to a better place. So give me the Lakers. Of that group, I don't really want to see the Kings right now. I just don't. De'Aaron Fox, and what's his name? Malik. It's not Malik Monk. Who is it?
Malik Monk.
Oh, it is Malik Monk. Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, to me, are just 2 formidable guards. I think Anthony Edwards can handle one. I don't know if Mike Conley, where he's at, can stay with both of them. So then you're going to need a little bit Monte Morris coming in to kind of give you a defensive boost against those 2 guards, because when they go, they go. And so that's why I don't want to see them. I'd rather them have to play the Thunder or the Nuggets and get knocked out and then let the Timberwolves deal with those bigs. So, yeah, give me the Lakers. Sorry, Reggie.
Jack. Maybe let's go to Reggie. Let's get Reggie's rebuttal.
I need to give it to Reggie here.
Yeah.
Ron, how dare you? How dare you? Okay? You know, if I am the Wolves, the team that I want, the Golden State Warriors, it's Steph Curry and the Pips out there. It's Steph Curry and the Pips. Like, yeah, Steph Curry can get hot at any point, but like their other only hope is just like Draymond Green kicking cat in the man region. Like that like is their only thing that kind of like scares people. Ron, don't even do that with the Lakers. Did you see what the Lakers did the other night? That team is scary. And if you get them in a playoff series, AD is healthy, LeBron is healthy, and all the players around them are doing what they're supposed to do, like that team can beat anybody on any given night.
Are you talking about the LeBron fourth quarter? When they came back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I give him that.
He's old.
Did you see him get tapped on the top of the head though
when he needs
and run off the court to cover his hair?
Okay. All right. Right. Okay. That's enough. Anyway, I think the Lakers are a scary team to match up with. I wouldn't want them in that first round. They're not that same Lakers team that, we saw the Wolves bully, back when they had Pat Bev and they were talking smack, and, Pat Bev is like, a couple seasons ago, like this is not that same Lakers team. Mavs, despite what Jack Borman thinks, I'm scared of the Mavs as well, just because like with Luka and Kyrie, it could be something. So I think I want the Warriors out of any of those teams left.
Lakers look really strong going to OT against the Wizards. Let me tell you, that was a gutty performance, super gutty. Jack Borman settled the debate here.
Okay, all right.
Reg, you're my guy, but I have no idea what I said about the Mavs to warrant a Mavs call out there. I frankly am like going through my mind of what did I say about the Mavs, but
I was just talking mess. Yeah. Ryan gave it to me, so I had to give it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, so let's just go through the records here of some of the teams that they could feasibly play. They're 2-2 against New Orleans, who's number 5. They're 2-0, no Zion, 0-2 with Zion playing. 0-1 versus Phoenix. They're 1-2 versus Sacramento. They're 3-1 versus Dallas, but Luka only played in 2 of those 4. Kyrie only played in 1 of those 4, and they're 0-1 against Dallas in the game that both Luka and Kyrie played. They're 2-0 versus the Lakers. They're 2-0 versus the Warriors. I would want to play the Warriors, frankly, because I want to see Jaden McDaniels and Klay Thompson get into it for a full series. I want to see Rudy Gobert continue his revenge tour. He's already gone after Russell Westbrook, and he's played extremely well against the Clippers. To go after Draymond Green and the Warriors and beat them, I think would be pretty fun. And I just think the Wolves are really tough matchup for Golden State. They've got the length to match the Warriors. They've got the size that the Warriors just really struggle to deal with. And, I think a lot of the teams that the Warriors have had success against that have gone big are teams that they've been able to spread out. But I just don't think you're going to be able to spread out the Timberwolves with how good of an isolation defense they are. The team that I do not want to see in any capacity in any round of the playoffs is the New Orleans Pelicans. New Orleans is a top 12 offense and defense. They're the best team by net rating of these 6 teams by far. Zion has 63 points on 75% shooting in the 2 games that he's played against the Timberwolves this season. He is just physically overwhelmed pretty much every single player on the Timberwolves, Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert included. They have scores at all 3 levels that they can get going and get hot at any time with CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion. They can match the physicality inside on both ends. They're a top 10 pick and roll defense. They're top 10 in forcing opponent turnovers. They are 5th in 3-point percentage, and they are 9th in free throw attempts. Those are all things that the Wolves have struggled with this season. And then they can match the depth the Timberwolves have. They have a really strong bench with Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, Trey Murphy. But the one matchup I think in this game or this type of series that would go a long way would be if Naz Reid could just absolutely dominate Larry Nance, who's their small ball 5 when Valanciunas is off the floor. I think would be an interesting matchup. Another positive too, going against New Orleans. You think the Timberwolves clutch time offense in play is bad. The Pelicans have been terrible in the clutch all season. They have a -18 net rating. I believe that is 4th worst in the league. They are 9-13 in the clutch, and they have the 4th worst offense in the league. So it would just kind of be immovable force meets, how does that saying go? Whatever that is.
Unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
Yeah. So 2 kind of clutch time disasters there would be interesting. But yeah, New Orleans is by far the most scary one. But if you're asking me to pick one of those teams that's in the 7, 8, 9, 10, I certainly think would be Sacramento, considering the way that the Wolves have just really struggled with their speed and 3-point shooting all season long. And I think Rod's point about Fox and Monk with Mike Conley out there could be an interesting matchup to watch there as well.
Watching Monk just destroy them in that second half was agonizing. I mean, it
was incredible to watch in person.
It was insanity. Now tell me this, like, I'm looking at the top 10 in the West. Is this priming up to be the best Western playoffs we've ever seen from a health standpoint? Is there a single major injury affecting any of these top 10 teams other than Russell Westbrook's hand? And you can judge how important he is to that team. These teams are loaded. They're fully loaded. And we're down to the final month of the season, and everyone's stacked. So, and you've got, the 10 seed Warriors have won 7 out of 10. The 9 seed Lakers have won 7 out of 10. So the bottom is rising. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be insanity. So whoever you play, I think it's going to be a tough matchup. I think even the Lakers and Warriors would give it to you for a couple of 7 games. They'd probably bring their A game a couple of those games, and you would have to withstand it. So I don't think there's going to be any cakewalks in this West. It's going to be a battle of attrition, and you don't want to be the team that has an injury. Like, if you lose somebody late in this year, you are behind the 8 ball because everybody else seems to be healthy and raring to go. Let's predict the week ahead for the Wolves. Jack Borman, you think this this road trip, I should say, is going to be pretty telling for the Wolves in a positive way? You were bullish on their chances. So they've got the Pacers, they've got the Cavs, Lakers, and Clippers all on the road this week, 4 games. Predict the week, Jack Borman.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1. I think they beat the Pacers. They've dominated this matchup. We saw Ant and Cat almost both get 40 in the first matchup this season. They dominated it last year. Cleveland will not have Donovan Mitchell Really similar teams. Minnesota's first in defense, 17th in offense. Cleveland's second in defense, 18th in offense. But no Donovan Mitchell, I think, is the separator there. And Cleveland's bench is 27th in scoring over the last 10 games. So they're going to struggle in an increased capacity. I do have them losing to the Lakers. The Lakers have been turning up of late. They've got 5 points, averaging 16.5 or better over the last 10. D'Angelo Russell has been just killing drop coverage. He's averaging 21.5 points on 47-41 shooting splits. LeBron was player of the week last week. Reggie, I'm not done yet. AD getting to the line a ton. Taurean Prince is making threes, and Hachimura and Austin Reeves have both been incredible off the bench for the Lakers. They're kind of in those rotation roles. I never can remember who's starting and who's not anymore for Darvin Ham. And I do have them beating the Clippers. I think that, they've really proven that they can shut off Paul George and James Harden in their games this season. The Clippers are 4th in offensive rating this season at 120, but in the 3 games they played against the Wolves, their offensive rating is 104.6, which would be last in the league. And the Timberwolves haven't given up more than 105 points in any game that they've played against the Clippers so far this season. So I've got 3-1 here.
It feels like this Lakers-Wolves game coming up, there needs to be some friendly stakes between Ron and Reggie after all the trash that was just talked. I mean, can we do like loser has to wear a jersey next Wednesday? What can we put on the table for this game?
Well, first of all, I had them beating the Lakers anyway. So that's what I'm saying. I want them to beat the Lakers. That's why I want them in the playoffs. Oh, so I'm saying, so if the Lakers beat the Timberwolves, Reggie take the Lakers, I take the Wolves. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be something at stake, right, Reggie? I mean, this is the ultimate test.
Yeah, if the Lakers win, Ron, you have to give me your Anthony Edwards shoes. So that's how we do it.
What size are you?
I'm a 13.
Well,
man, never mind.
We were the same size. I didn't know that.
Oh, we are?
Okay. I got a 10 for you.
I've also got some 13s over here. Look at us.
Oh, man. Okay.
Look at us.
Who would have thought?
We'll work on whatever wager. I don't really know what I can give up. I don't really want to give up anything. Please win, Lakers. Anyway, so I think 2-2. I think 2-2. Here's the thing. I saw what the Pacers did last night. I am scared of them. Like, they can ball. Like, they got some dudes, and any given time, Halliburton could just like light it up. And so I think they're a scary matchup. That could be a loss for the Timberwolves. I think they beat the Cavs, like you said, no Donovan Mitchell. Even with what Dean Wade did last night, I'm not afraid of what the Cavs will bring. And then I think between the Lakers and Clippers, one of those two may be another loss. So I go 2-2.
Might be smart because we've been routinely overestimating the Wolves' abilities in our Predict the Week segment. Ron, finish us off.
Well, so my original was 2-2 because I had them. I mean, I went going off my 13-7 prediction. I had them beating the Lakers and the Clippers, and I had them losing to the Pacers and the Cavs in these first 4 on the road. But I wasn't aware of the Donovan Mitchell situation, so I have them losing to the Pacers. I don't know why. I just feel like the Pacers, when you think about them trying to get some, ground in the East and actually, show that they deserve to be in the final, they can beat one of the best teams in the West. I think the Pacers are the team that might come out and play. But I have them losing to the Pacers, beating the Lakers, beating the Cavs now. And then the Clippers one for me still. I feel like they should be able to get that back. Like after that travel, I feel like they have a little bit more of like pissed offness about him. Anthony Edwards knowing he should have maybe taken a 3 instead of dunking the ball with 3 seconds left. All that little stuff I think is going to give them the oomph to want to beat the Clippers. So I'm going to go 3-1, but I do have them beating the Lakers.
Yeah,
heavily. Smashing LeBron, tapping him on the head just to get him out the game.
I'm really excited for this game now. I'm gonna go 2-2 just because I feel like I gotta temper my own expectations for this team a little bit right now. Pacers have never been more aptly named because they are all about pace and they are gonna score and they are gonna run. And I don't know if the Wolves can keep up, but we'll find out. We'll see if they can shut down Halliburton. He's a special player. Somehow they're only the 8th seed in the East, though. which is a little puzzling to me.
It's really, really weird going from the play-in or the in-season championship to that. Like, that's crazy.
They don't play any defense. It's
true.
somewhat
Problematic.
that Halliburton for Sabonis trade, is that like one of the more like win-win trades that we've seen in the NBA?
Great question. Might be. I'd have to give that one some thought. But that's a good one to talk about maybe as next week goes on. But we've got football party tomorrow, roundtable on Friday, and the postcast with Jack Borman and Luke Ginman after every single Wolves game. For Jack Borman, Reggie Wilson, Ron Johnson, I'm Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching and listening to the Minnesota Basketball Party on Locked On Sports Minnesota. See ya.